Okay, so welcome back to this video on variables. So in this video, we will see how variables are declared and assigned and what are the different errors that you can encounter while working with variables. So as you can see here, we have defined a variable count and then we have incremented it by 1 and then printed the value. So let us do one thing. Let us break it up into two steps. I have broken down the single statement into two. So in the first statement, I am declaring the variable and its type. And in the second statement, I am assigning the value. So first step is the declaration and the second step is the assignment. So this is done generally where you have a member variables of the class level and you don't know the value at the declaration time, but you still want to use it because you want to expose that variable to different functions and methods. So if you are confused at this level, let us not think more about it. We will come across them when you have the time. But what has to be learned at this step is that we can break the single step or the single statement into two different sets where we declare a variable and then we assign the variable later. So there are some important things to remember is that you cannot assign or use a variable before declaring it. So if I comment out this statement by using these two forward slashes, you can see that the compiler is already showing me error that there is no property called count. So if I try to run it, I'll get this error that unresolved reference count, which means that Kotlin compiler is not able to make out who this count is or what is type and why it is here. So I'll just uncomment it and then I'll comment out the assignment. So there's still an error. And you can see in the hint that the compiler is telling us the count must be initialized before we can use it. So even if you try to run it, you will get the same error that the count must be initialized before we can use it. So these two steps make up the most important ones. So let us fix it up again. So now let us take another variable called name of type string with the value as Ankur Kumar. And then let's print it up. Okay. So what I've done is I've taken another variable of type string. So Kotlin has variables which can be of different types. Now these types are hardbound to the variables. So once a variable has been defined for a specific type, you cannot change its type by assigning a different value. So if I try to assign a number to name like 10 or 100, it will start giving me an error. So this particular error says that the integer literal does not conform to the expected type string. So literal stands for the value. Any value can be this string or this number or this number. So only string types can be assigned to the name variable. So let us remove it for now. As mentioned earlier, variable names can start with characters or underscore. So I can have something like var underscore name, but I cannot have one name. So any variable cannot start with a number, but it can start with characters or underscore. I can also start with a capital character or a small character. Generally in convention, we use small or camel case for variables which can change their values and which are local in scope. And we use capital characters or uppercase characters for storing constants. So if I have like month in year, which is a constant value, it's never going to change, then I'll be using something like this, month in year, or maybe months in year. So as you can see here, I have not given the type here. I've just taken a val because I know this value is never going to change. And then I've given the variable name. Then I've given the value of the variable, which is an integer or a number, but I have skipped on the type. So the Kotlin compiler is intelligent enough to actually infer the type of the variable with the data that we are assigning. But if you are breaking up the assignment, and declaration in different statements like these on line number 4 and 5, you need to give the type of the variable upfront, because later the compiler will not know what is the type that you have initialized with. So wherever you are breaking up declaration and assignment, you need to specifically tell the compiler what is the data type. Otherwise, if you are directly initializing and declaring the variable at the same time with the data, then Kotlin compiler is intelligent enough to infer the data type. So let us take some more values. So what I've done is I've taken two variables, or three. So first one is a constant of months in a year. The second is the monthly salary, and the third is yearly, which is the calculation of my yearly payout or salary into months. So if I execute it, I'll get something like 1,20,000. So which is the product of 12 and 10,000. Now the next thing that we need to make sure is that whenever we are defining variables, they should mean something meaningful. So they should not actually confuse the human who is reading this code. So computers don't mind. You can give any name to the variable. I can even have it as X, and I can even have this as Y. And if I execute it, it's still going to work because the computer does not care about what X and Y actually mean. But to another human who is actually reading this code, it would be very difficult to understand what X and Y actually mean. So what we generally do is we give meaningful names to the variables. So let us go back. If you just want to undo your code, you can press Ctrl Z in Windows or Command Z in Mac. So let me just undo all the changes I've done here. So next thing I want to tell you is the camel case. So this is actually monthly salary. So let me just rename it properly. Monthly salary. And this would be my yearly salary. So you can see that I renamed my variable here, but because it was used in the next line also, the next line is now giving error because I only renamed the declaration of the variable and not actual usage. So generally what you can do is, let me first undo this. You can right click on the variable, go to refactor and rename. Or you can use the shortcut, which is Shift F6. And then once inside, you can start typing the new name. You can see as I'm changing the declaration statement, it is already changing the usage, which is in the next line, something which is here. So once you are done typing in the new name, just press enter, and all the instances of this variable will get renamed. So I'll do the same thing for yearly. Go to right click, refactor, rename, and I'll make it yearly salary. You can see that the variable usage in the next line number 14 has also been renamed. So this particular nomenclature or this particular way of writing is called camel case. Something, so if you see a camel from the side, you can see its hump, which is slightly higher than its body. So the same way, we have all the lowercase characters, and then we have this uppercase character which signifies the start of the next word. So while reading, it becomes easier to understand that there is a gap here and these are two different words. So this is something called camel case. So generally all the variables in Kotlin as a conventions are written in camel case if they are not a constant, something like this. So there is another constant type in Kotlin, but it is not meant to be used inside a method. So don't get confused later. Just know that something like that exists. The only thing is that val has to be initialized at runtime. Val can be initialized at runtime, while constants have to be initialized at compile time. So while you're writing your code itself, you have to give that value. So I can actually move this months in year outside my function and I can actually make it a constant. So this value compiler will know is never going to change, and it will do some optimizations for that. So let us break the video here. In the next video, we will see some more types of numbers, floating points and doubles. And then we will also see something about string concatenations. Thank you for watching.